So I read about the rights and responsibilities of test takers. I found it really interesting and informative. I didn't actually know that this document existed prior to this assignment, and a lot of what it said makes sense. Things that I'd learned in this class and in previous classes, just, about uh, clients' right to know the limits of confidentiality and their right to know what the test is going to be used for or the results, what those will be used for, who's going to know about the results, etc. But it was nice to be able to go over that information where there's one document that has their rights, their responsibilities, and then our responsibilities as um, administrators of these tests. So um, it'll be good for future clients to be able to have this document or one like it to be able to go over it with them and help them understand what they need to know prior to testing, what they like questions that they can ask me, um, like the rights that they have. So it was really interesting. There were a few things that I found surprising. There's one primary question that I did have. I guess it would be considered missing information. Um, Not necessarily that I don't know the answer to that, but it would be nice if this were involved in the document or this were stated in the document somewhere. In the preamble, it talked about the most fundamental right for test takers is that they are able to take tests that meet high professional standards. And it's not that I find that necessarily very surprising, it makes sense. I think if I had been asked prior to reading that what I thought the most fundamental right for test takers would be, I think I would have thought it might have been over test fairness, allowing everyone to have equal access to tests, or making sure that a test has been standardized for those people, like that we make sure that the test is right for them. So maybe it's not like the tests have high professional standards, but maybe that the person administering the test meets certain qualification and is competent to administer tests and choose assessments or tests that are relevant to that client. So, that's probably what I would have thought, but I think that also goes into taking tests that meet high professional standards, especially like tests that are standardized for that person. Tests that are accurate and reliable, that have high psychometric properties. I think it makes complete sense. I think I probably would have just thought that a right for test takers would have also involved the professional administering the test meeting certain standards as well. But so yeah, I did find that interesting. Another thing that I noticed was that a lot of the client's rights were also their responsibilities. They had a right to be treated with respect, for as an example, and they also had a responsibility to treat others with respect. They had a right to be given explanations about confidentiality, accommodations, what the test will be used for, who will see the results, etc. They also had a responsibility to ask those questions. So I found it interesting. It went over their rights, but they also had a responsibility to ensure that they have those rights in a way. So that was interesting. But then we go, as you read down, you see that the administrators also are responsible for making sure that basically the test takers, they're responsible for making sure those rights are upheld. So although the test takers have responsibility, those who administer the test are ultimately responsible for what happens. So I guess my question there is, what does happen then if test takers have a question, if they need accommodations, if maybe they don't understand the language as well, or something affects the results, because one of their responsibilities is to allow the counselor to know if something messed with their results. What if something like that happened that maybe the counselor, the one administering the test, was not aware of or would not know, but the test taker didn't tell the counselor. And I think it would be nice to involve something like that, like what is procedure with that. I think after going through this class and just, with stuff that I've learned, I have an idea, and ultimately we would be responsible, but I think it would be nice to have something a little bit more concrete, or at least maybe a guideline to be able to know, like, if we as administrators were not made aware of something, but the client is ultimately like they did not follow through with their responsibility, what would we need to do with that? So I think that would be a question that I have, and I think that would be something that would be nice to add to that document. But overall, I found it really interesting. A lot of it was stuff that I have learned before, so it was nice to be able to see that. But I will certainly be referring to this document in the future, and it was very informative.